The Jon Jones timeline has been nothing short of fun. I mean, in many ways, Jon Jones's mind is a national treasure. It's very rare that you're going to come across something that goes in circles quite this much. Oh, and then by the way, comes and shares it with everybody. So Jon concocts an idea that he is going to go and fight Francis Ngannou. He concocts that exactly 48 hours after he stated he will not go to heavyweight, but he could be tempted with a catchweight fight of 220 pounds. 2 days later, that idea never existed. He's going to take on the biggest, scariest guy in the entire division. Okay. I've got no problem with that because there is no such weight class as 220. You either go up or you don't. So the second idea is better than the first idea. To watch them both be his ideas and reverse on himself in such a short period of time is a little bit interesting. Look, you've either got a good and clear and well thought out plan or you don't. Okay, fine, he did it. So what? No big deal, right? Okay. He wants to fight Francis. He wants a whole bunch more money. Now, business is drastically different at this point. You guys are all very aware of that. You can't go to a live show. When you get to a live show that you can't go to, you cannot buy a t-shirt. You cannot do certain things that are revenue to not only the company, but the industry as a whole. Okay, great. So to ask for a raise in this time when you know that the finances are different, it's just a very baffling thing. But Jon decides that he's going to go and get a whole bunch more money to go fight Francis, and it needs to be for the world championship. Now, that might be one of the harder parts. You could, at least in theory, come up with the money. You cannot make a championship match at the heavyweight class that doesn't involve the champion, who is not named Francis Ngannou. It happens to be named Stipe Miocic. So that part of it got really weird really fast. Just accept this. So Jon then documents this through social media known as Twitter yesterday. And somebody had asked Jon a question about, is there any progress going on in the proposed fight of him versus Francis? And Jon responded, in talks with them right now. He then must have got off the telephone because it was 10 minutes later when he said, hey, it's not going to happen. They're not willing to pay more for this fight for me to move up to heavyweight. I'm walking away. I'll see you all in 1 to 2 years. Now, your first response when you see that is, Jon, if you want to walk away, nobody's got a problem with it. Just promise us that you won't drive away. As far as I'm concerned, I've never seen you hurt anybody by walking into them. So far, so good. He comes back 11 hours later, and he says, I am no longer emotional, I am just sad. Now, hold the thought right there. I am no longer emotional, I am just sad. Sad happens to be an emotion. So you cannot be unemotional while being sad. Do you see the problem with this statement? And then he says, I've had time to think about it. Now I'm kind of looking at my clock going, these tweets are time-stamped. It's been 11 hours, oh, by the way, of sleeping hours. I would think that you were asleep for 6 to 8 of those hours, so basically you've had 3 hours, but either way, he's rethought it, and then he declares that Blachowicz is next. Now, when you're a guy in Jon Jones's position, which is the champion, you fight who they ask you to fight. That's just the way that the sport works. And that was also good for Jon. I mean, Jon was coming through. He's 23 years old. He's beating everybody. You got to put him in there for the title. You just do. That's how he got the opportunity. But this is also something that then he has to give back to somebody else. But when you're Jon and you come out and you call your next shot and you declare that Blachowicz is next, you are declaring that Blachowicz is next because you know that's not the fight that they want, but they didn't give you what you wanted, so you're going to stick it back to them as a way of calling everything square. The problem with this is twofold, which is, first off, it is not Jon's choice. Simple as that. But secondly, you cannot come out and call your shot publicly 11 hours after you called a different shot of which you got swatted away with. Look, you can only walk into Dana's office so many times and tip his desk over. You can only do that so many times, and then you're going to find out what side of the bread is buttered. I feel as though that day would have been yesterday, but to come out and call your own shot and put yourself in a power position when all anybody has to do is do something called scroll down in your timeline. You just called a different shot of which you did not get. And by the way, I should mention, because Jon made this public, I'm not speaking out of school, he told us that the UFC said, look, we're not going outside of your contract for this, but we will remind you that your contract does call for pay-per-view points. And if you're right with your idea that this is as big of a fight as you're certain it is, you're going to be rewarded on the back end, but it's just that. You have to understand one thing with the UFC, but largely this would just cover over as a broad stroke to any business at any time. If you come to the boss with an idea, you don't then get a raise for it. It's different if the boss comes to you with an idea. One of Jon's arguments was, I can't believe that the UFC didn't want to reward me for moving up to heavyweight. Well, if you were to look at that as an argument, why would that not carry over to Anthony Smith? If Anthony Smith all of a sudden says, I'll go up to heavyweight, should he get a bonus? I mean, let's just ask Jon Jones that question, because according to him, the answer is yes. If you switch weight classes, he's going from light heavyweight to heavyweight. There's something there, and that should come with a financial reward. He no longer has to cut weight. He has an opportunity to go and do this champ thing to add to a legacy that's already quite remarkable in all fairness. But he should then be rewarded for it. By the way, this is my idea. And by the way, I'm not willing to take any risk. The UFC comes back and goes, look, got the whole thing. Hear your idea. Like it. You're right. You don't have to take any risk. We'll write all of the checks. But by the way, we are going to let you participate if this turns out to be a good idea. Can any of you get that deal? Could any of you go into your boss right now with an idea, if that works, where your boss does not take 100% of the ROI? Now, he's going to appreciate you, and you're going to get to come in next time, and he's going to listen to your idea, and you're likely to get it until you get one wrong. But that's the way that it works. The UFC goes above and beyond and goes, look, you get participation on the back end for the pay-per-view, and we happen to think there's something here. We happen to think you're right, but we're not willing to gamble on it right now. Not a title fight, but there's something here, and if you guys want to move forward with it, we could continue this conversation. But if it starts with you getting a bigger guarantee, no. Your guarantee is already beautiful, and you have back-end money. Jon then comes out and calls out Blachowicz. That simply cannot happen. He simply cannot get Blachowicz right now. Mark my words. You could take this to the bank. I guarantee you, the only thing to come of this, of his swing and his miss at Ngannou, of which was played completely wrong, of him making this public, of him changing his mind and not being emotional while being sad, threatening to walk away, and then calling Blachowicz, the only thing I can tell you guys for sure, with absolute certainty, is congratulations, Dominic Reyes. You're getting a rematch.